Alright guys, here I am with the G recap about the trade that I took yesterday, and once again here is the markup that Marcel has made in London session. I have used these 4-hour markups because nothing really has changed since London session, so that's the reason I am explaining the things based on these 4-hour markups. As you can see on this 4-hour GBPUSD chart, there was an extreme 4-hour demand mitigation, and inside of that 4-hour demand area there was literally perfect triple bottoms liquidity, which has been built up for future short movements. So also we can really identify literally perfect range on the 4-hour time frame, perfect trendline liquidity on the upside, perfect triple bottoms on the downside. And yeah, on the 4-hour time frame, the GBPUSD was a literally perfect range, and it means that we can trade between 15-minute zones. So yeah, and as you can see, we could expect we could expect a range sweeping concept. If price sweeps the liquidity on the downside first, then the sweep of the upside will happen, and if the second sweep will happen to the upside, we will expect the continuation to the upside. Also, the exact same scenario could happen to the opposite side, so the sweep of the upside first, sweep of this downside second, and continuation to the direction into a second sweep. So yeah, technically that's all based on the 4-hour time frame. We can't really talk about it that much, and let's take a look on the 15-minute time frame that I have made for that session. So what can we identify in the 15-minute time frame? As you can see, here was the bottom of the 4-hour triple bottoms, and after the reversal from this point, technically price reacted on the last recent valuable 15-minute supply area, and inside of the 15-minute supply area, price has created literally perfect trendline liquidity for the future possible long movements. Technically there was a 15-minute supply area which was the origin of this whole movement that has started to happen before London session, and we could be careful. We had to be careful based on this 15-minute supply area because it was part of the liquidity, so we could expect the flip of this zone or the liquidity sweeping movement, even though if a confirmation had to show that. However, before New York session, prices just made the last recent breakout structure at this point. And in this case, I would mark out the last recent 15-minute supply right here, where I would wait for confirmation entry and expect continuations targeting this double bottom liquidity right here. Or if a new breakout structure happens after a reversal, then I would wait for confirmation entry on the newly formed supply area, targeting the exact same target, the triple bottoms on the 4-hour time frame. However, if the last recent supply area that has caused the last recent breakout structure could not manage to hold the price and the higher supply gets mitigated, I would wait for a confirmation entry on it. However, if a flip of this zone happened, then I would look for longs targeting this supply, which is technically part of the liquidity. And in this case, we could hold the price. We could target this higher supply area, which was technically a 4-hour supply that has caused this huge bearish movement to the downside. So technically, these were the plans that I was waiting for in this session. And let's take a look on the real time frame, real chart. So what has happened? Technically, session has started at this point with this candle. This is the first candle of the session, and as you can see, here was some news release that has happened half an hour after session open. Technically, price reacted on this 15-minute demand, but I wasn't really looking for any long based on this 15-minute demand because it was directly part of this insane liquidity pool on the 4-hour time frame, and that's the reason I wasn't really looking for longs based on this 15-minute demand mitigation. I was pretty sure about that price will sweep this liquidity out, and that's why I was really looking for sells. And as you can see, after this demand mitigation, price has technically reversed back to the last recent supply area that we can identify in the 5-minute time frame. Also, it's technically a 15-minute zone. There was a little stop in the market, and after this stop in the market, this news candle has been printed, and technically this whole news candle has started from this 15-minute supply area. So technically this 5-minute supply that I have used in this case is a 15-minute zones 5-minute refinement. And let's take a look on the 1-minute time frame, what has happened right here. As you can see, price has technically done 1-minute substructure at this point for quite a long time. So for an hour, technically it has done a literally perfect range for the upcoming movement. After the range high sweep, price has made a small person mitigation on the 15-minute, 5-minute supply area, as you can see, and technically changed character to the downside. But it was a pretty small, really small amount of mitigation, really small percent mitigation on this 5-minute/15-minute supply, and I was still expecting a 50% mitigation, even though GU tends to mitigate small percentages of the higher time frame areas. I was still expecting a deeper mitigation on it, and as you can see, I did not enter on this zone because it was a clear sell trap for me. Everything about this zone was efficient, and this was technically the only inefficient area that has initiated the change of character 2 after the small person mitigation. So this was a sell trap for me. I was waiting for liquidity creation for it in order to enter on this zone. It did not happen. Price had just swept it out, mitigated the 50% of the higher time frame zone, and after this mitigation, price has changed character to the downside. I have marked the flip, and technically the change of character has happened here too. Based on this 1-minute demand, I wanted to see a failure of this 1-minute demand in order to count the change of character. Everything above that demand was technically efficient at this point, even though there was a small rejection after a bit deeper mitigation. That's the main reason I did mark the change of character at this point, because I wanted to see a failure of a 1-minute demand area. It did happen. Even though the structural low point was still unbroken, the demand has broken. So it means that an opposite sided zone has been created. And there was a clear opposite sided zone, which was the extreme in this case. And also, based on this 1-minute demand mitigation, technically a flip scenario has happened to here is the reaction, and after that the flip scenario has showed up. I wasn't fast enough in order to set a limit order on this 1-minute area that has caused the flip in this case, but in this movement I was pretty sure about that price will mitigate this extreme area, because the real volume, the real inefficient push has started from this extreme area and not from this flip zone. And also after the reversal, after the flip, as you can see, price was struggling inside of that 1-minute area, and actually it has built up a combined liquidation for the entry POI right here. And I have set my limit order here, and I would target these double bottoms right here and not the triple bottoms on the 4-hour time frame. I would have been more than satisfied with this 9.5 risk reward ratio, but as you can see, unfortunately it swept me out, and after that technically the real movement has happened. And let me play price forward a bit before I start to count the criteria. So as you can see, it almost hit my TP, but just around 1.5 hours later after session close, technically it would hit my original TP. So it would be a really nice 9.5 risk reward ratio trade, but it was a stop loss hit for me. Let's count the criteria. So the first criteria was the higher time frame zone mitigation. Second one, liquidity take. Here was liquidity take, clear liquidity creation, and also sell trap, which has been swept out. Third one, inefficiency. The real inefficiency has started from this extreme. That's the reason I have entered on the zone. So yeah, pro trend. 4-hour time frame was a range in this case. So based on this ranging 4-hour time frame, we could trade between 15-minute areas. And at this point, because of the liquidity target on the 4-hour time frame on the downside, we could definitely expect the continuation of these bearish movements. So the pro trend criteria was perfectly valid in this case. Fifth one is the change of character, which was also a flip in this case. It did happen. It was a literally perfect V-shaped recovery after the 50% mitigation. So I had already 7 criteria. At this point right here, price wasn't coming from any opposite sided zone, so this would be my 8th criteria. The 9th one is the liquidity target. Here on the 1 minute time frame and also on the higher time frame, we had insane amount of liquidity target, and also we could count the corrective pullback strong pro movements. If we take a look on the movements, we can clearly see that how much stronger the bearish movements were instead of the bullish movements. So literally every single bearish movement were stronger than the bullish ones. And also we had combined liquidation for the entry POI, so it was a literally perfect 11 out of 11 full criteria entry opportunity that I want to execute every time, no matter what the outcome will be. Unfortunately, it turned out as a stop loss hit, but it was a literally perfect entry opportunity that I want to execute every single time. So yeah, price had to wickable just above the zone. That's the reason why price had to sweep me out. So yeah, but it was still a perfectly valid loss right here with 11 out of 11 criteria. It's perfectly fine. After the sweep out, as you can see, price has just reached my origin TP level for 9.5 risk reward ratio. So yeah, and that's all, guys. I really want you can grab some value from these recaps. And tomorrow I'm going to record the recaps about Friday's about today's session. So yeah, it's a bit not complicated, it's a bit uh strange that I'm recording these recaps, but that's what I do right now. So yeah, take care, guys. Want to wish all of you a nice rest of the day, rest of the weekend, and see you guys tomorrow in the recaps.